Hey, Seth McCauley here with the 6 Degrees or Less podcast. And so, I created this podcast a while ago to talk about the art and the power of networking, or relationshiping, as I call it. And I am so excited to have Jenn Congdon with me today to talk about networking, to talk about how we got connected, and to kind of share some of her thoughts on what networking means to her. We're also going to dive into a little bit of some pet peeves, maybe, because there are some things out there that people do or don't do, maybe, as it relates to networking, that kind of are maybe kind of no-nos, or some things that people could be doing better. And as a reminder, when I created this podcast, I was really focused on 3 audiences. One was people who were new or early in their career and just had no idea what networking is or how to do it. They could barely spell networking, let alone do it. 2 was those people who just don't like it. They're like, I know I need to do it. Everyone says I need to do it, but I just don't like doing it, or I don't know how to do it, or I want to do it better. And then number 3 was those people who are in transition. So people who are in the career, and all of a sudden they find themselves in transition, and they're like, oh crap, like I need to network. And I've spent all this time focused on my career, and I never focused on building a network. And so those are my 3 main audiences. But I want to introduce Jenn here. So Jenn is a friend and fellow HR executive, and
boomer sooner.
Oh my gosh! And there we go. See, it started early on. So let me first. I'll turn it over to Jenn here to introduce herself, and then I will talk a little bit about. I'll share my side of the story on how we got connected, and then she can keep me honest and tell her side. So Jenn, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Seth. It's a pleasure as always. So I'm Jenn Congdon. I've been a CHRO at both a private equity backed company as well as publicly traded companies. I've worked in industries from high tech to aerospace to water to recycling. Over 20 years of global experience with an exec MBA in international business and communications undergrad degree, basketball athlete. My dad was a Sooner forever, like father, like daughter, right? He got me early to be a Sooner fan. Yeah, whatever.
All right. So speaking of Longhorns and Sooners, so that takes me back to how we got connected. So it was early 2020. It was just before the pandemic. It was, in fact, it was probably days before the pandemic officially started. So you and I met each other in Las Vegas, or in Lake Las Vegas, whatever, like in Henderson or something like that. We were both at a Connex Partners event, and kind of it was a collection of CHROs that were invited to this event, and it was great. It was a few days. It was a great event. A lot of great networking, a lot of great relationshiping. There were some vendor meetings that we got to have, and we got to meet some great people. But anyways, somehow in the course of maybe that first day, I don't remember how it was. Maybe you might have been speaking or on a panel.
I think we were on a panel.
We might have been on a panel, and somehow it came up that I found out that you were an OU fan, and you found out that I was a Texas fan. And afterwards, I think we were walking through the hall, and all of a sudden I just heard this like boomer Sooner, and I was like, all right, come on.
Game on.
I was like, game on. You want some of this? And so we started like this friendly banter. And I think that's how, over those 2 days, we just kind of, we found ourselves, kind of in the same groups. They had these think tank groups and vendor meetings in between. You could just kind of network at different tables. And so we just kind of just started connected over that rivalry, that very healthy rivalry, even though we're going to kick your ass this year. And so then after we left, and literally like a few days after that is when it was officially declared a pandemic, and the world got turned upside down. but we stay connected. We stay connected on LinkedIn, and we're both part of, both got asked to be part of the CHRO advisory board with Connex Partners, and we've just stayed connected. And you ended up in Dallas, and I was in Dallas, and then I left Dallas, and so now today we find ourselves, commiserating and talking a lot, because we're both kind of in search mode and in transition, and so we share a lot of stories, and so we have a lot of networking stories. So that's my version of things. I don't know if that is very different from your version.
No, I think that's pretty spot on. I mean, other than you thinking that Texas is going to be Oklahoma, coming up, but yeah, it absolutely was friendly banner. We both had a lot. I think one of the other common connections that you and I had during that time too is that we were one of like maybe 3 or 4 people that were at this conference that had manufacturing background, and it was manufacturing related companies, right? And so I think there's a little commiserating too on, we need some more people from heavy industrial and industrial manufacturing involved in these networking groups, so that we can share some of those ideas, since the shop floor is very, very different often than just in a purely white collar organization, right? Little different than banking and insurance, and
there was a lot of healthcare. I seem to recall
a lot of healthcare. There's a lot of healthcare.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Well, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, so I want to have you, when you think about networking or relationshiping, what does that mean to you? Like, so when this idea of just kind of, a lot of times, and what I like to say a lot, and I say this kind of over and over again ad nauseum, but some people have never heard it, but I think the mistake that a lot of people make is they see networking as an event. Like, a lot of people think networking is, I need to go to this event at this time, and I'm going to talk to this group of people, and it's a happy hour from 6 to 8, and then when I'm done, it's like I can take off my networking habit and I am done. Like, I've hit my limit, and that is just not how I view networking at all. So,
it's a life event.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen that way. So what does it mean to you when you think about networking? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think so. There are 2 things for me. So one, when I think about networking, I also think about connectedness, right? And so connectedness to me is, connecting with people with a purpose. I mean, networking itself is also, but it started really early for me, and I'm not going to get teary-eyed. I might, but I'm not going to. When I was early teens, sitting at the dinner table, the phone rings, wrong day to answer the phone, right? The ring didn't sound quite right, and someone was calling to tell my father that his mother passed away. And so we got in a car. We were in Virginia, driving to Indianapolis, and drove straight through. And when we got out of the car, we were in the elevator. It was my mom, my dad, my brother, and there are these 2 elderly women that were in the elevator with us, and they were talking about my dad and what a fantastic job he did, even connecting to family, right? Connecting to his mom. He wrote her, he called her probably twice a week, wrote her once a week. And they were just going on about how lucky she was that she had someone in her life that cared that much about her. But again, they had no idea who we were in the elevator. And so hearing someone talk about my dad in that manner and how he was doing things with purpose, right? And I know it's family, but it started then for me, right? And I said, I want to be that person. I want to be that person that connects people to people, that, does it with an intent, because you never know that with every connection you make, what anecdotal impact that's going to have with somebody else, right? Just even if it's just in a casual conversation. So that's on the personal front for connecting and relationshiping, right? I've always found it really important to don't wait for the person to call you, right? If you've got college friends, if you've got, grad school friends or former work colleagues, don't wait for them to reach out and pick up the phone, right? Be the one
that phone goes both ways, right?
It does, absolutely. It absolutely does. And then networking, to me on that front is really, networking with a different type of intent. So the intent for me with networking is, if I think of the people that I want to talk to that I think could ultimately add some value, the first thing I ask myself is, what value can I add to them? Right. So if I'm talking to a search partner, do I have people in my network that might be a really great fit for them, right? That I can offer up in that conversation as I seek out their advice and counsel on, hey, what do you think? What do you think is happening in the market? And so I don't start off with, hey, you know, I need a job. I started off with, hey, how are you seeing things? What are you seeing in industrial manufacturing? What are you seeing in this, you know, this other? And I'm asking them their opinion because I find that people like to talk about themselves.
Yes, yes, they do. Yes, they do. So
I'm
love
getting tired of doing that though.
Well, I love that story about connectedness. I mean, it's just, I mean, just so interesting, right? That was such an important moment for you, and just the fact that you happened to be in that elevator at that time, and that conversation just left a lasting impact, obviously. So, so so also you talked about networking with intent, and so I guess I want to kind of tug on that thread a little bit more. So how, and part of this maybe ties into some pet peeves maybe that we have around networking. And so, I think sometimes people, they do exactly what you said they shouldn't do. Well, in my opinion, and I think your opinion, what they should do is they look at networking from, what can I get from this conversation? What can I get from this relationship? And it's all about me. And so I love that idea of like, okay, thinking first about what you can do for others, and having the conversation around, hey, what are you seeing in the marketplace? Just getting their insights. It's not about like, hey, I need to find a job. Can you help me out? It's about, hey, I want to get your insight perspective. But I know firsthand. I mean, you've as we've been kind of friends and partners as we both go through this search process. I mean, there's been a lot of times where something has not been the right thing for you, and so you'll think of me, and I appreciate that tremendously. And so I think you live that out very well, and so I think that's great. But what other as you think about networking intent, are there other pet peeves maybe that you can think of that people do or don't do that maybe we can chat about and have some fun with?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So from a pet peeve perspective, I guess it's more, it's interesting. And I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this or frame it. There's a difference between arrogance and confidence, right? And I think that also happens in networking and when you're talking to people. And so if I'm talking to someone and they're coming off completely arrogant, right, or I'm perceiving it as being completely arrogant, it's too much me, right? It's about me. And again, a little bit less about the they. And it's perfect. I mean, I love it when someone comes in with full confidence, right, into a networking conversation. But man, when that confidence tips the scale to arrogance, I shut down completely.
Yeah, you've lost.
And I've seen that with some search people, right, too, which you hate to say, where you're like, they're so confident in what they're doing that it's borderline sometimes arrogance too. I think we've all come across some of those instances.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too that you said that I love is the ripple effect, right? And so you just never know. What impact somebody will have, or you will have, good or bad. But I like to talk about the good. I like to focus on the good, because I'm always amazed by these stories of like when you find out that somebody, was a conversation 10 years ago, or a relationship 10 years ago that just maybe an old work relationship, somebody you lost touch with, and all of a sudden, then you find yourself 10 years later, and you find a way to you either reconnect proactively, or something happens and by chance you just reconnect. And these stories of like, all of a sudden, like, you've been on my mind. You have been on my mind for the last year. And it's like, really? And all of a sudden, then it just creates, it's like, you just never know the impact that you'll have. None of us ever really know the impact, good or bad, positive or negative, that we have later on. But I guess talk a little bit about, the ripple effect and how you've seen that play out in your career.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you just touched on a little bit too, right? If you're talking to some former college, college classmates or, grad school. So for me, for example, I was talking with a really good friend of mine who I went to grad school with, who has started her own consulting business. And so we had a great, and she's in cybersecurity, and she's fantastic. And we just had this conversation, and she's like, Jen, I don't know, on the networking front, the best way to get out there and do it. I'm like, but you do it every day. I said, as you think, and the ripple effect is just thinking even of things that are outside of your industry and your space. I'm like, you're a cyber person. Let me connect you with my former CIO at this company, and I'll connect you with another finance leader that is responsible for information systems as well. That's an in for you. And so that ripple effect is, now I've connected someone that's she's so smart, right? I connect her with 2 other people, and now they've got this additional connection point, right? So whether it ends up being really great value for her company going forward and she gets business out of it, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but she made 2 more points of contact, and I guarantee that the people that she's talking to, if someone else is asking if they know anyone in that space, she's going to be the first person that comes to mind.
Yeah. It's so funny. Not to go back to the football thing, but I'm going to. It kind of reminds me of, like, in college football, they talk about the coaching tree, right? So they talk about the lineage, right? And so, like, you think about like Nick Saban. Okay, so you think about all the coaches who have coached underneath Nick Saban over all these years, over his career, and just more students. So you think about like how wide and how deep that network is, right? But it's kind of like that. It's like you just when you say, hey, look, hey, we're having a conversation. I want to introduce you to somebody that I think, and it's not necessarily like I'm going to introduce you to somebody because I think they have a job for you. Right. There might be, right. But more often than not, I just want to introduce you to somebody because I think the 2 of you, I know enough about you and I know enough about them. I think the 2 of you would have a great conversation.
Exactly.
Well, I think that you there might be a business opportunity for the 2 of you, or this person might know someone who can then lead you to a job opportunity. And so it's kind of like,
get you into a different industry, right? So she came from the banking space, and cybersecurity is much broader than just banking, right? Yeah. If you think about different, even in industrial technologies and high tech, right? Yeah. And so it was an opportunity to really be able to get take the mirror on a different industry.
Yeah. I mean, I would almost venture to say, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but it's almost like 6 degrees or less.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, so you'd asked me the question too, and I don't love my answer relative to pet peeves and arrogant comments, but it's true. But I was thinking a little bit more on that too. I guess my big pet peeve is that if we are intentionally trying to connect someone to somebody else, and we're going not out of our way to do it, because like you said, we think it's a really good thing to do. Yeah, is when they don't follow up and they don't actually. Yeah. That's a pet peeve for me, right? Because
that is,
it's an opportunity lost, not only with the person that I'm going to connect them with, because I've pre-wired them saying, hey, by the way, this person's going to call you. And so then it ends up being, a reflection back on the person that is actually trying to get you connected with someone else.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And there's some people out there who say, well, maybe what you do to circumvent that is it's like if I'm having a conversation with you and I say, hey, Jen, I want to get you introduced to Bobby over here. I think Bobby would be a great connection. So, some people would say, well, then what you do next is then I go to Bobby and say, Bobby, I'd like to make this introduction to you. Are you open to that? And so then that gives Bobby an opportunity to say, I'm jammed up right now. I don't have time. Or you can say, yeah, no, that'd be great. And then, I always use LinkedIn. I love going to LinkedIn messaging, and I attach the 2 people and just say,
exactly.
Jen, meet Bobby, meet Jen, yes. And I give a little intro, and I'll say, I'll let you just take it from here.
Yes.
But if you haven't kind of pre-wired that other person and they have no idea it's coming, it might you might hit them out of the blue, and they might be like, man, I'm out of the country for the next month, and maybe there's a reason why they didn't respond, and you didn't know that. And so it does take a little bit of extra work.
But it's worth it, right? Because if you thought highly enough of the individual that you're talking to, and you thought highly enough of the connection, and really know that they're going to have a great conversation because you just know both of them.
Yeah,
it's worth it. It's worth taking that extra time to do that, and then you've also done you paid it forward a little bit.
That's right. And there's that piece of it that I love, kind of being I love that feeling of kind of being the matchmaker. I mean, if I can get two people, again, like, I know enough about them where I'm like, man, this is going to be an awesome conversation. Like, it's almost like I would love to be a fly on the wall of that conversation because I know them so well, and I know that they're just going to hit it off. So yeah, when you get those two people connected, gosh, I just love that. Yeah. I just love that. And it's not about me. It's like, there's nothing I'm really benefiting from that conversation, but I just love getting those people connected. I love getting people connected. So
you had talked before too about not some people, right, when you're in your intro, right, some people just they're either too shy or they don't necessarily like to network, or it's or it's like, okay, I can only network between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. at this happy hour, right? And I get it. Not everybody is extroverted. There are a lot of introverted people, or closet extroverts or closet introverts.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to really make those connections, and I have to say, just do one at a time, right?
Yeah.
Just to one person.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're spot on, right? So that's actually how I got actually started on this whole path. Before I started my podcast, I had done a LinkedIn video. It was my very first LinkedIn video, and it was December of 2018. And I just posted a video out there about networking, and I called it the N word. It was kind of catchy, and I kind of said, hey, we're going to talk about the N word. And I talked about networking. And for me, it was like, I just couldn't understand. It was so strange to me that some people just had such a hard time networking. I mean, for me, it just comes so naturally. It's just like breathing, right? It's just easy. But some people really struggle with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people are very introverted, and they don't like speaking publicly, or they don't like speaking with other people. They're just not very comfortable with it. So I thought, man, and I got a really good response from that video. And that's when I was like, man, maybe I'm onto something here. I'm like, I mean, for me, it just seems so simple, but for some people, they really struggle with this. And I thought I'd love to find a way to help people get through that. And so that's kind of how the whole podcast was formed. And to your point, there are some people who just really struggle with it. And that's what I love to help those people and say, like you said, maybe they just set a goal, like, hey, I'm going to reach out to 3 people this week. And maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's an email, maybe it's a text, maybe it's a LinkedIn. I'm just going to reach out to 3, just 3. And then it's like a muscle. And the more you work it, the stronger it gets, and then eventually you just get more and more comfortable with it. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I would say too, so I talked to another, so connectedness, right? I with purpose and intent, I connect to a lot of people in my grad school class, because I went, back 20 years after. You had to have real working experience before you did it, right from Thunderbird. And I just was chatting with one of our T-birds that had kind of fallen off the grid a little bit, right? He was just doing his thing. And I was like asking him, like, well, have you reached out to anybody, right, in the class? He's like, well, I feel like I've been so far removed for so long, I don't want to burden anyone. And I was like, dude, that's what I call my dude. I'm like, don't, please never think that. I said, especially with a grad school like that, right, where it's an exec MBA program, the whole point is networking, right? The whole point is connecting people together. And I promise you that any of our fellow T-birds would be more than happy to be the recipient of a call from you, right?
Yeah.
So
well, if nothing else,
we'll hear from them.
Yeah, if nothing else, put the ball in their court,
right?
Right. So you reach out, and so then it's on them. If they don't respond, well, then they don't respond. Yes. But at least you're like, hey, I did my part. I mean, I tried. So I know we're kind of winding down here, but so I'd love to. So let's talk a little bit about. So you are HR executive. You led some global teams. When you are building out, when you're building out an HR team, or when you are looking to add on to your HR? What are some things that you look for? I'm kind of shifting gears here, but I want to kind of keep the networking, lens on here. But like, what do you look for as you're looking to build out an HR team?
Yeah, I guess when I think about the people that I'd like on my team, it's really around those that have a deep desire and passion to want to understand the business, right? So kind of that business, that it's both, right? So if someone, for example, someone tells me, hey, I'm a people person, that's why you should hire me, and I'm in HR, I'm like, all right, yeah, no, maybe not. And I guess maybe the bias in the back of my mind, if someone says that, it's, are you going to be able to have the difficult conversation, right? When you might need to have that difficult conversation. And so it's really about putting that business lens on, a strong desire and passion to want to learn about, about the business, functional areas of expertise. Obviously you want someone that's well-rounded. And I love diversity of thought, right? And looking at people and how do you bring people to the table, right? To have those conversations.
I agree. And I love that. I love the idea of the growth mindset, right? So it's just people who've got that just curiosity.
And continuous improvement, right? I want someone with that. I want to leave things better today than they were yesterday. And I always look for that, right? There's always ways to improve.
Yeah, agreed.
As you build out your team, Seth.
I mean, a lot of it is the same. I mean, obviously there's the functional chops, right, to do the job, but that's almost like table stakes, right?
That's table.
So,
exactly.
Your ability to understand compensation programs, or to understand benefits administration, or to recruit or acquire talent. That's table stakes. I mean, a lot of people can do that, but I'm a big believer in the idea of like, the best HR partners are true business partners.
Exactly.
They understand, they take the time to understand the business, right? How do we make money? How do we lose money? What keeps the CEO up at night? What are the pain points? Like, and spending time, to me, what's been invaluable is going into a new role and spending some dedicated time, not doing any HR work, but in the business. Like, I want to know the lingo. I want to spend time with the operators, with the people, visiting sites, visiting the leader, just really understanding the mechanics of how the business runs and how it works before I get into the HR stuff. Because it's like, me personally, I just don't feel that I could be an effective partner, HR partner, if I don't know jack squat about the business.
It's hard to create an HR strategy if you don't know the business.
Right. It's just. I mean, I think a lot of times HR people, they have these blinders on. Like, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on comp and benefits, and I'm going to focus on TA, and I'm going to focus on employee relations and labor and compliance, and it's just they have this mindset of like, I have no idea what we sell or what we do or what we service. It really doesn't matter because I'm just focused on this piece. And it's just like, no, you got to take the blinders off. You got to take the blinders off, and you got to learn and know the business.
And I think one other thing I would just add to it also is that, obviously as you grow in your career and the higher up the ranks you go, candor and courage, right? I'm looking for someone that can have the courageous conversation, right? Someone that's not afraid to push back on the CEO, the COO, right? The vice president of the business, whomever it might be. And with tact and diplomacy, but having the courage to be able to do that, because they know, I've always found that if you're providing feedback, it's coming from a good space. And, if you can relay that message in that way and provide feedback in a way that they know that it's coming from a good place, there's going to be a lot more receptivity to it.
Yeah. Well, in doing it in the right way too, pushing back for the sake of pushing back, because nobody's good. But
exactly.
Understanding how each leader is kind of wired, like, okay, like I'm pushing back, but I'm going to provide data. Like, here's the data to support why I'm pushing back. So,
and please figure out how you can get something done. Don't tell me all the reasons you can't.
Yeah. Right. Well, I want to kind of wrap up here. So I want to kick it over to you. Kind of any final thoughts you have around just kind of this whole networking thing, relationshiping thing? I mean, what bit of final advice would you give the folks out there?
So my final advice on networking is that it's a life event, right? You're networking for today, or if you are networking for today, think about that networking today should carry you into perpetuity, right? It's really every phone call you make, every connection that you make. You might not even be looking for a job, 3 years from now, but someone's going to remember that you took the time to reach out, and it just creates this active network for you, and give back, right? When you are networking, and if you've landed something else, and you know that a search person's looking for someone else for a different type of job, open up your network for them, right? Just give back in that way. But you're not just networking for today, you're networking for the future.
Agreed. So last question is, how do people get a hold of you? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on my LinkedIn, Jenn Congdon at 24, I believe. Or you can certainly email me at Jenn, Jenn. I'm a 2N Jenn. Congdon, CON, G as in George, J as in David, O, N as in Nancy, at gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for making the time. This is great.
Thank you.
Good conversation. And
absolutely. And boomer sooner.
Oh, I knew you were going to end with that. All right. Well, I'll just kind of put the little horns up there in the back. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Love the conversation. Thanks, and that's it for this episode of 6 Degrees or Less. Well, thank you for tuning in.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Boomer.